February 3rd, 2020. Joe here at Simple Life Show. I appreciate everybody for joining me today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, do all the good social media stuff to keep the rational voices out in front where they belong. So it is the day after the Super Bowl. I hope everyone had a chance to at least watch some of the good Super Bowl commercials that were out there. As we know, the Chiefs did win. They did make a comeback. I thought it was kind of miraculous because towards the middle of the fourth quarter, I was like, well, I'm probably going to turn this off because the 49ers are probably going to win this. But my wife said, nah, let's just see what happens. Well, I'm glad I listened to her because it was kind of a cool comeback. And we've seen that the Chiefs done this several times throughout their season. Now, I am not a football fan. I really don't watch the NFL. I do not agree with how politicized it has become. I'm not going to lie about that. I am a sports fan. I do watch college basketball. I don't really watch the NBA as much. I used to watch the NBA a lot until that, of course, still became a lot of politics involved. I watch college sports now because there's less politics involved, and I'm not really going to get into that. Now you can see where I'm kind of going with that. But what was kind of interesting about the Super Bowl was number one, the commercials were kind of stupid. They were kind of lame. I sometimes watch the Super Bowl just for the explicit reason to watch the commercials. I'm like, these are really expensive commercials. They have to be really good. If you could remember back in time, commercials, especially during the Super Bowl, used to be very, very creative. Now, I'm not saying there weren't very creative commercials during the Super Bowl. I missed some of them for some reason. Maybe it was when I was in the bathroom or something like that. But for the most part, they were just pretty lame. I just really didn't get it. The Super Bowl halftime show was like I was in a strip club. There was pole dancing, and it was just wall to wall crotch, and that's all. I mean, some people like that kind of stuff. Whatever, you know. I'm going to make a separate video on something that I saw and a lot of people others saw, and I'm going to make a separate video on that probably after this. But what I found was really interesting is Nancy Pelosi is a 49ers fan, says here from the Orlando Sentinel, San Francisco 49ers fan Nancy Pelosi will be in Miami for the Super Bowl. What was actually really interesting, obviously, the Chiefs won, right? And I see that as the commander-in-chief coming back and winning in the last few minutes. And I think this is kind of synonymous with what's going on, this whole impeachment thing. Nancy Pelosi went out and she was very just boisterous, very, very confident that she was going to impeach the president. And now we're sitting here and she has failed at her attempts, just like the 49ers have failed to get their Super Bowl. You know, I'm not saying they didn't play hard, and this is just an analogy that I'm using. But Nancy Pelosi wasn't the only one that was rooting for the 49ers. Carby Donktum actually put out a tweet last night, and it came through. That was, I think he posted this shortly before the whole game started. He says, breaking, Elizabeth Warren releases a statement about the Super Bowl. There is no place in our society for the denigration of indigenous people, and especially for trans native people. I'm not sure why she included that, but okay. And for that reason, my husband and I will be supporting the 49ers in the Super Bowl. This might have been something that she put out, and she might have saw how stupid it was. Maybe she deleted it and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people are throwing her under the bus, and they are throwing her under the bus for a very, very good reason. The 49ers, okay, and this is just a little bit of a history lesson. The 49ers were gold miners and prospectors that went across the West when gold was struck in California, and due in part by all the help from the Native Americans that were living there at the time. There were hundreds of thousands of Native Americans living in California before it was California. It was it was still part of Mexico at that point. So the 49ers were very, very, of course, they were primarily white people coming across to the West looking for gold. And at first there was a lot of gold, right? But then it started to actually dry up. And in fact, a lot of the 49ers were responsible for the killing a lot of Native Americans there because they didn't want to share all the gold, and it was pretty much a kind of a white supremacy type of thing because they wanted to separate the Indians away from the white settlers who were there for the gold. The 49ers did they, if you look at the mascot for the 49ers, it's a gold prospector with with a pickaxe and all that kind of stuff, and it's all fine and great for the NFL and other sports teams who might have that type of mascot, but we need to remember the history behind this. I don't think Elizabeth Warren remembers the history behind the 49ers. Now, Trump made a gaffe about, Kansas City being in Kansas. And this is a common mistake because there is a Kansas City in Kansas. There's also a Kansas City in Missouri as well. Of course, that is where the Chiefs are from. This is a common mistake a lot of people make because it's kind of weird. I drove through Kansas City and I was like, oh, we're in Kansas now. No, we're in Missouri. Okay, so I made that mistake, when I first rode through Kansas City because it didn't make any sense to me. But, this is not something to freak out over. And a lot of people are just throwing Trump under the bus, calling him a moron and stuff. We all have our gaffes, and the president is not immune to them as well. But, we can all poke and fun and laugh, and that's great. But Elizabeth Warren, this is probably the biggest gaffe of all. Supporting the 49ers, that just means she doesn't remember or even know her history of the 49ers and the damage they inflicted and the racism, the true racism and the white supremacy that was around at that time against Native Americans and against the Indians there, however they wanted to be referred to at that time. It doesn't really matter. But I think that, she obviously retracted this maybe or something. She's just pretending it doesn't exist. Of course, Iowa is a huge thing. I don't think she's going to have a huge outing with Iowa. She might come in third place. I don't know. I think there really are only three places, as I say, the proverbial three tickets in the Iowa race that's going on today, the Iowa caucus. But my personal thoughts on it is that Bernie Sanders is probably going to come out with a huge win today. I think that he's doing a lot of the right stuff that he should be doing, even though I do not agree with anything that comes out of his mouth. Just like Trump says, or he said today, when it was questioned about what he thought about candidates, the first thing that came to his mind was communist. Now, Bernie is a avowed socialist, but as we know, socialism inevitably leads to communism. It's happened everywhere. That's why we don't see really any type of succeeding socialist-only countries anymore, because it doesn't succeed. And if you want to point to Denmark, Finland, Sweden, Switzerland, all those Nordic countries, they are primarily capitalist countries. Please catch up if that's what you believe. But this is really just about this Elizabeth Warren statement, which I thought was hilarious when I first saw it. But don't forget to share. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.